Travis, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm excited for our conversation today. So I like to start every interview by asking guests, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That is a really great question. I wanted to help people and I
Mm,
wanted to be a bridge for people, for them to get wherever they're getting. And of course, when you're younger, what does that look like? It's not necessarily a title that you're familiar with, but I was that little boy who was, if I was in church, I was always standing at the door, holding the door for everybody to walk through.
mm, yeah.
I was that kid. Also, just if anyone needed any help with the groceries with the grocery store, and I saw someone just trying to get the bags out of the cart, I was like, oh, you need help, let me get this. And
Mm.
my mom would just be like, can you stop trying to go everywhere without me, especially when I've been a young kid. But yeah, I didn't know exactly what that was, but I felt a great reward, like internally,
Mm.
in doing that.
Mm.
And I continued doing that through my teens. I started volunteering in different communities, volunteering in different boards, commissions, and it just kind of all stemmed from the same place of how can I help somebody today?
I love that. So you were telling me about some of the pieces earlier around your childhood and how that's impacted you and who you are. So do you mind sharing a little bit about what we were talking about?
Yeah, you're a great interviewer because you're bringing out the jewels for sure. Because I don't share it anywhere else. But yeah, I remember just thinking to myself, I really don't know what I want to be when I grow up because I didn't have a lot of examples of, all right, well, I would check out books in the school library. You should be a firefighter. You should be an astronaut. You should be this. You should be that. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, these things are nice. So these things are great, but I can't be any of these things. Well, at least that's my mindset at the time
Mm.
because growing up, I didn't have many examples of what a male or a black male would look like
Mm.
in that space of, oh, okay, this person is a grown up. This
Mm.
person is doing something in their professional career. I remember being in school, not seeing any men between the ages of, and when I say in school, but I was in school, but also in my community in different places. I don't remember seeing any men in my life or in my community between the ages of 18 and 50. And of course, I'm in school, so everyone is under 18. But then because of neighborhoods that I grew up in, I never saw anybody that was beyond that. Either they didn't make it to 18
Mm.
or they left. I didn't know that they left. They just didn't exist
Mm.
in my mind as a young man, young
Mm.
boy.
And where did you
But of
grow up,
course,
Travis?
I grew up in North Carolina, small town, Wilson,
Mm.
and it's popular for being the birthplace of BB&T and that kind of thing. But when it came to professionals or even examples of what being a grown up looked like, I saw the dads and the granddads 50 and up, but no one in between that, as far as in the working class kind of thing. So when it came down to, well, what do you want to be? I was like, well, I don't know. I just want to find something internal that kind of helped me feel good inside. But no, there wasn't any examples. And I really didn't know what I wanted to be or who I wanted to be for that matter. In fact, before I went to college, I didn't know college existed. Before I went to high school, I
Mm.
was a sophomore in high school before I started hearing things about, well, what do you want to go to college for? What is that? And sometimes I felt dumb for even asking those questions at the time. But of
Mm.
course, knowing if you don't ask questions, you don't learn things. Or if you don't open up a book, if you don't go find information, how else will you learn? And I just didn't know. But I
Mm.
started learning and seeing, oh, this is what they do. They go to parties, they do this, they do that. Oh, they go get schooling, or they get education. Oh, they
Mm.
get jobs. Oh, they meet people. Oh, they, and I was like, oh, there's a whole world where there's people who are between the ages of 18 and 50 who are working and thriving. I want to go meet them. And that was the importance for me to go find mentors that could
Mm.
paint a picture for what the future could look like for me.
Mm. And what do you think it was about you, Travis, that allowed you to ask the quote dumb questions? I think about my own background and being the first in my family to go to college and like, well, I always kind of, me and my sisters always talk about this. What was it that allowed us to look for opportunities? And so we're always kind of analyzing, okay, maybe it was mom, it was dad. And we think about all these different things. It was not being cool. It was being really nerdy. What do you think it was for you that allowed you to be willing to ask the questions, to look for opportunities?
When you're younger and you are, I'm not gonna say broke, but in challenged communities,
Mhm.
humor and jokes tend to be the go-to remedy for a lot of people. So there were a lot of jokes being placed on me in other places where if you ask certain questions, it would just make you feel like, well, maybe I just shouldn't ask. It's going to be embarrassing. They're going to treat me a certain way. They're going to look at me a certain way. They're going to talk about
Mm,
it. They're going to laugh at me. And 30 kids will make jokes on me and about me being nerdy or how come you don't know this? But I also know now, what I didn't know then is that there's probably half that same room that also didn't know, but they're
mm.
left for the sake of being accepted socially in this space. But I think what helped me, and my wife was always saying this, is like, Travis, you don't meet strangers, do you? But
So the
I,
people.
yeah, just
Yeah.
ask people because worst case scenario is okay. I felt like it's a dumb question then, but now I realize it's a question that it needed to be asked for the sake of not just anyone else, but selfishly for the first time. Travis, you need to find out where did they go. It almost seems like some type of I don't know suspense sci-fi film. Where do all the 18 to 50-year-olds go once they graduate or once they leave this
Oh
place?
my gosh.
Like
Yeah.
no one is here anymore.
Mm,
But I needed to know. I was thirsty for the information.
mm.
And I knew that it might come with some jokes on me and some ridicule and harassment and bullying, those kinds of things. But I think just being brave enough to kind of stand out and just take it.
Because you were being led by your curiosity and you're wanting to seek those opportunities. Like that was stronger than the feeling of potentially being rejected or being ridiculed or made fun of or
Yeah. I mean, because I always felt like there was something more. I just didn't know
mm,
what it looked like, what it could be. I'm a sophomore in high school. How old is that? I had my first job at McDonald's and just realizing, okay, I want to do more than this. And that was like my hunger then, but I
mm,
didn't know what it led to.
mm,
So I'm in school, I'm in my community, I'm with my friends, and I'm extremely curious. But I just don't know what to kind of fill in the blank for it to be.
mm,
So I'm a junior in high school. I now know what college is, but I have no idea what I want to be, what I
mm,
grew up. And it's funny about that question. I love that question so much because I mentioned that question in one of my latest book, Interview Activator, is because that's the first technically interview question for children when they
mm.
start thinking about careers for the first time. They're just children. And we as adults, how do you want to labor for 40 hours a week?
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, for the rest of your life. So that's the tell me about yourself. What do you want to be when you grow up? And
Mm,
that's that first question of, okay, I guess I have to choose something. Or you can just continuously evolve, learn, grow, and find ways to improve who you are. And who says you have to have one career for the rest of
mm,
your life? You have 3 or 4 careers. I heard someone say that most people only live the first chapter of their book over
mm,
and they just keep reading it over and over.
mm,
They just retire out of that first chapter, but they can have as many chapters. And it's the unknown because you don't know what's in the next chapter that makes it a page turner. So
mm.
this
Oh,
when they
wow.
that's when they become like happy to like, oh man, and they're excited to tell people about this book, tell people about their lives, share, like meet other people. And when they go to the next chapter, it's not necessarily a different job or a different career. It can just be taking on new hobbies, moving to a new place, taking on the next step in your life. I think it's important for people to do.
Wow, that was beautiful, Travis. So, Travis, walk me back to college. So, what did you study in college? Tell us about kind of the path to starting your own business. Was that something that you saw in your parents? I know for me, being an entrepreneur was totally not intentional at
Really?
all. No, no, no. I wanted a steady paycheck, but I love coaching so much that I was willing to take that risk. So, tell
It
me
just,
about you and your story.
it just seems so natural for you. I seen
Oh
you
my
move.
God.
I was like, she was born for this.
Oh my God. Thank you, Travis. Well, tell us your story. So, how did you get into this space? Tell us your story.
So dating back to college, first prior college, I asked myself, what do I want to do with the rest of my life?
Mm,
What would I want to do first thing in the morning or last thing at night?
mm,
And I knew it was people related, but
Mm.
at the time I enjoyed food a lot. So I drove to different restaurants. I would try different food. So I was like, well, I'm going to join the Navy and be a culinary specialist. So I learned food there.
Ah.
And then I went to college. And then I went to culinary college there, culinary school at the Art Institute in Chicago.
Ah.
And I did not know you were going to ask me this question, but conveniently, I have this picture with me. This
So
was like,
Travis is showing a picture of him in the kitchen.
yeah, so I'm a chef, I'm private chef, I'm doing catering. Again, that was my art. But for some reason, people would still ask me about, Travis, how do you get all these jobs? And conveniently, I learned that that was my strength. I couldn't keep a job when I was younger. I could get a job without hesitation.
Mm.
So, yeah, without knowing it, that was the building of my long-term career and becoming the guy with the jobs or the human resources guy online. So I started helping people with their resumes in college, and then I continued to do it outside of college. I remember handing my best work to the college advisor who also did resumes for the students. And there was so much red ink on my resume. It hurt my feelings, but it also taught me that always challenge yourself to learn and be better,
Mm.
sharpen your craft, find mentors, and there's always going to be someone smarter than you in the space. And that is okay, but also don't become comfortable being the least useful in the
Mm.
room. Say
Mm.
it like that. So after writing resumes and kind of putting myself out there and helping other college students with their resume, just because I knew Microsoft Word very well at the time, and I still do, I came back home and after college, and I got into human resources after a culinary role. Kelly Services had called me, they're a staffing agency.
Okay.
It was like, hey, can you sit at this desk tomorrow? I was like, yeah, sure. It's a career fair. There's 80 people standing out the line, out the door. And I didn't sit down once the entire time. I shook everyone's hand. I'm meeting and greeting.
Mm.
I'm directing traffic. And I had never had any real experience doing this, but it just clicked for
Mm.
me. And by the end of the day, because I didn't go run out and get in the line so I can get a different job, my then manager, which is now like the head of, I guess, half of America when it comes to Gallup Services, she said, Travis, you remind me of myself. I don't sit down when I'm meeting people, and I want to see if you'll come back. And I noticed that you're still here. So if you want to continue to be here, I'm fine with that. Long story short, I actually started my career in human resources officially helping candidates get the job that they're looking for.
Mm.
And then I became an HR assistant on that day. A month later, I became an HR coordinator. I became a senior HR coordinator. In a year's time, I became an HR manager or an on-site manager. I thought my manager was kind of lazy. I was like, dude, you're not doing any work at all. But he was actually preparing me for
Mm.
another role. I didn't know. But he would leave early and come in late. So it just kind of positioned me to take on a lot of his responsibilities. And that beefed up my resume in such a quick time to a
Mm.
point where I went from on this side of the desk when it comes to getting a job to being the person who is responsible for helping others.
Mm.
And since then, I've circled that HR desk at least twice. So yeah, that was my career 14 years ago.
Wow.
Starting
And how long were you there before you decided to start your own thing?
my coworkers would say, Travis, you know you don't own Kelly Services, right? I know, but
Oh, and what made them say that? Because you were so kind of driven to bring business and revenue to Kelly Services. You acted like an owner. Oh, what do you think caused them to say that?
I used to think there was just always, I don't know, just there's like office humor. So in times I was it never mattered what hat I was wearing, I was always going to see if I can help.
Mm.
Titles had never been my biggest concern. It's like, okay, what is my responsibility today? How can I really just dive into this and take ownership of what
Mm.
my part is
Mm.
in the big picture? But yeah, I mean, come to find out, they saw more than I did. I just came to work happy every day. I was just excited every day. And oh, no, no, don't worry about it. I'll take care of them. I just made sure that everyone had a personalized experience. And probably because I didn't look for titles as much, there were people in charge of us that were happy to sit back and let me kind of run the show at times.
Mm.
And I think that's where it began. And I remember weeks before I started my first official business, my coworker at the time, she said, and she was sitting at the front desk where I began, I can see you running your own business. I can see
Mm,
some type of boss hiring people and you giving them the experience that you really want to. A month later, on my birthday, there was a huge shift in the company. And after several years of building my experience at that one company, they let me go on my birthday.
mm,
I was
mm,
forced to be Travis once again and not let a certain job dictate who I was going to be and make sure that I was going to be myself no matter who was my employer. I asked myself, well, Travis, you're good at one thing. You're good at getting jobs. You're also good at creating jobs, which I did that there as well. I think I'm going to make a job for myself. And I did. I started writing resumes. I just, within 24 hours at my first client, I just got on Facebook. Hey, I'm writing resumes now. Let me know if I can help you. And because I already had a reputation for posting jobs all the time, this is before LinkedIn. I'm not saying I'm the father of social recruitment or social selling. I was definitely there on the ground floor before LinkedIn really kicked off.
mm,
But it was amazing just to kind of use that social component to connect with different people in the thick of their normal lives and for them to see, you know what, I need a resume. Travis does resumes. Let me
mm,
help so I can
mm.
come on. But yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty much now.
yeah. Well, and a few questions that come up for me there, Travis. One is, I think for a lot of people being laid off
Yeah.
and then kind of deciding, and there's probably a whisper there for you that was like, start your own thing, but you were probably comfortable, you were probably doing well. And so that layoff on your birthday was probably the moment where it was a push you probably needed, I
Yeah.
assume, looking back. And for most people, being let go would be this moment of kind of wanting to watch Netflix and be sad about it, right? Like,
Right.
and what you did was you turned around and on your social media very publicly said, "Hey, I'm doing resumes now. If anyone wants support or help." And I think that takes a lot of courage to go from the moment you're like going on your birthday to turning around to your network and saying, "Hey, who's interested in a resume?" And then you said, I'd already been posting about jobs before you were let go. So you were known as this expert, which I think must have helped you succeed in getting people to ask for your resume. So I think there's a lot there. What comes up for you as I share that?
I was scared.
Hmm.
And thank you for saying that it took bravery, but I did it afraid. I definitely didn't have the confidence that I do now, but I did cry a little bit.
Oh.
That moment you're not just working a job, working a job, working a job, whatever that's coming your way, but now you're going after and you're having some sort of rhythm in your job choices. And next you know, you're in a career and you have a consistency of, oh, this must be who I am, building that identity.
Hmm.
You're paid for something that you feel like you're good at. You're
Hmm.
confident in a space. You feel respected. You just get a bonus. You just get a raise, and
Hmm.
your bubble is popped. So, well, who am I? But
Hmm.
after a quick pep talk to myself, I realized, well, Travis, worry about that later. This is who you are now. You may not know what the end product is going to look like, but
Hmm.
start somewhere. Start now.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. I didn't have all the experience. All I knew is when you work in temp agencies and staffing agencies, you have exposure to so many different industries,
Hmm.
have direct connections with the hiring manager and the CEOs and their human resources department. So you get a direct insight into what these different companies are looking for, things
Hmm.
that don't say in front of you as a candidate, how they're going to look at that resume, how they're going to interview you, what they're looking for during the conversation.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that I had began building that skill set and how it would translate as a HR consultant or human resources consultant,
Hmm.
my business and brand. But yeah, I was just as afraid as anyone else, especially now. Over 100,000 people have been laid off in technology
Hmm.
from Salesforce, Meta, and more. I mean, all across the world, not just the United States. And there's a sense of, well, what can they do when a lot of these companies are adjusting from COVID, hiring too many people just to fulfill a gap there at maybe 200, 300% in their hiring and labor. Some people were pushing out big hiring bonuses to attract top talent because some people were not there. They felt comfortable being at home. Some people lost their jobs. Some people just left. It was just uncertain times. And then the great reshuffle happened. And so it was just a lot happened over the last 3 years, before, at least. But what we're noticing is, especially with HireAE, There's a lot of people who are taking the time to reassess and recalibrate what their skill sets look like. They're getting training, they're getting more certifications, they're setting themselves up for a better positioning when it's becoming their time. They're getting interview coaching, and it's exciting times. It doesn't feel great at times because you have responsibilities. Not everyone has the luxury of working for the sake of it or for extra money, but more so, this is how they're taking care of their family and themselves. But it's great to see people take a shift into careers that they would have not considered given comfort. So, yeah, I mean, people are really switching gears here.
And that's an interesting point you bring up because kind of being laid off or a big moment like that or COVID has been an opportunity to really reassess what's important to us, what our values are, what do we enjoy doing, what do we want work to look like. If there's someone listening, Travis, who maybe they're still at their job, there hasn't been a big layoff or something like that, and yet they don't feel like their role is fully aligned with what they enjoy doing or maybe what they're really good at. What would you say to that person listening?
14 years ago, I asked myself the question, what am I good at? Not based on the fact of what I keep applying for or what I keep answering to. People in the job ask me for advice, or people will externally ask me for advice. Hey, do you know this? Do you know there's got to be some type of reason, just like my coworkers. Travis, I can see you doing this. I can see you running this. And I didn't know what they saw, but I would begin asking yourself, what do people keep asking me? And how do they see me as a subject matter expert in this space? I'm not saying, hey, go start a business. Everyone is not meant to start a business. Sometimes there's some rough times there. And there's nothing wrong with being loyal in a company. Somebody has to run these different organizations. But within that space, and you're answering the question, what do people ask me for? How do I help people the most? And in that entire space, look for those types of jobs and not being afraid to see what transferable skills you may already have into those spaces. You may not know what the title may be into that new role, but if you're at your desk right now doing a job that you are just, you could probably be happier, that you can probably see yourself working remote, making more money, whatever that step is, I would say look at what you do, look at how you're looked at as a subject matter expert in your space, in your industry, and see if that's a job somewhere. And then see if you'll be willing to just take that step into a new career. I tell people there's power in the pivot.
Power in the pivot. I love that. Well, and so how would someone begin pivoting, do you think, from your point of view? What if they're not ready to like leave their role? What do you think might be a good first step? To what one you talked about kind of evaluating and assessing what are they good at? What are people going to them for as a subject matter expert? What else could that person do?
I think one of the best mindsets to be in is when you're passively looking for employment at that time instead of actively looking. And because you may accept anything, a wise kid once told me, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think that happens in your career at times, and you just kind of get off the beaten path of your career. But if you're passively looking and you can just take a moment to, when you get off work or when you're lunch break, make a list of what you actually do. I'm not saying write a resume. I mean, it will become a resume at some point, but write a list of exactly what you do, how often you do it, who you do it for, answer the who, what, when, where's, and hows, but then list out different software that you use, different people that you may connect with in your ecosystem. Whenever you're done with your work, who does it go to? Who do you receive your work to? Start naming out those titles. There may be a different aspect of that same role or a different variation of it, or it may be with a partner of that organization. And even if you're in a situation where you haven't had a serious job yet and you're not in a career yet, I think just still looking at who you are, writing those things down. What are you actually doing? What have you done? What would you like to do? How do you connect to that future? And just start looking up those things, because today, you and I, we're older than Google, right? So, which means we didn't always have a search engine to go and look to define things or look at a path. Because of search engine optimization, people now can spend less time trying to figure it out and more time getting it or going at it. So I think if you take some of these items and take a highlighter, make it old school, and just start highlighting certain items, well, I love this, I love this, I love that, I love this. And oh, I remember they gave me a bonus for this, or they gave me a certificate for that. But I
Mm,
really enjoyed this more than when they compensated me for it. Oh, well, maybe you need to go into a nonprofit, like whatever those cases may be. But I think ultimately, like, just start looking up these different terms, these different groups of words, put them in a search engine and see what is coming up in the world,
interesting. Yeah.
see what's pulling back. And you
Mm.
may find yourself looking at a different career.
Well, and Travis, I'm curious. You mentioned you were so vulnerable and so generous in sharing that there were some tears at the beginning.
Yeah.
What have you done to work on your mindset? Are there books? Are there people in your life to keep you going? Because I know as an entrepreneur and from myself and then from interviewing others, is that being an entrepreneur and in anything in life, mindset is so important.
Yes.
And I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that.
In a world where the iPhone has 50 apps that all want your attention and they're
Mm,
gonna push notifications to get you to take action, I think it's important to just sometimes get into a quiet place and just kind of pray, meditate, really reflect on how was my day today, or what will I do today? How was I being my best self today? What part of my day yesterday that I loved most? I think just kind of having moments of appreciation and gratitude kind of reposition your thinking. Little things like that help increase, in my opinion, my emotional intelligence to help me
mm,
change my
mm,
mind. I mean, there's so many things that happen on a normal basis in anyone's business, in anyone's job, in anyone's
mhm,
life. Help a parent, getting married, getting that promotion, whatever the case may be.
mm,
And not everyone is necessarily ready or have all the tools for those next steps.
mm,
Or worst case scenario, you actually go down some steps and now you are in a space where you have to reconsider where you are now and either stay or move forward. But I think just getting quiet and quieting that phone, put it on focus mode, or just put it in a completely different room, go on a drive somewhere, don't listen to the radio. I think just getting quiet, you'll begin to hear yourself without the distractions, without other people telling you who you are, without the ads telling you what you should buy and where you should go.
mm,
I feel like it's a different world now. So that helps. And yes,
mm,
there are some, I would say also be intentional as well. There are some audiobooks, some paperbacks, some hardbacks that I've really come to enjoy. And yes, there are some of those that are just kind of iconic, like Atomic Habits, those kinds of things. And there's other books. And as a person who constantly focuses on different hats in my business or different hats in my household or different hats in my community, I've learned that taking hobbies are actually really healthy to reposition your focus. It doesn't mean
mm,
that these things are not going to get touched. Some people may lose their job and just spend the rest of their week or their month on the couch with Netflix. And that's okay for some people, but not too long. I would say that don't let that be the place where you finish. You can start there, but don't finish there. Get something or do something that's completely off your normal path or
mm,
that you really love to do that you haven't done in a while because you've dedicated 40 hours a week or 160 hours in a month to a job or a business or something else. And just kind of reposition your focus to just kind of relax, just reflect and
mm,
have that meditation. If you love planting or potting, put your hands in some soil, plant some seeds,
mm,
and over the like while you're applying for jobs, water your plant and watch that grow. And you can start measuring your progress with this plant's progress. Little things
mm,
like that.
mm.
I've noticed that have helped people. And these are some of the things I've given as advice. It's some people say these are just weird pieces of advice. They have nothing to do with anything other people are talking about. No, I'm just talking about people. Remove the titles, remove the accolades, remove the honoraries. You as a person,
Mm,
how can you best position yourself to be more of yourself?
mm. Oh, I love that, Travis. The power of reflection. And because what I've seen too, so I do executive coaching, leadership coaching, career coaching. And when I'm
Yeah.
doing the career coaching, I notice that clients will say they spend a lot of time like on the websites, on the search engines, trying to figure out what it is they want, right? And too much of that sometimes can lead to exhaustion and
Mm,
drained feeling. Yeah, of just like, I don't know. And so what you're saying is step away from that for a little bit, that you're not going to not do that, but that there is power in taking time to do things that can be more reflective. like
Yes.
gardening or that allow you to connect to that internal compass.
Yeah. Taking a run without your phone. I absolutely agree.
Mm. So tell us about your book really quick and where can people find it?
Absolutely. Amazon. Go to Amazon. It's
Okay.
called Interview Activator. Get more
Interview
jobs, make
activator.
more money, close more offers. And essentially, the purpose of the book is to help you attract more jobs and define what that career path looks for you. So you can actually start building that path of getting the increases and getting the job that you actually want. Mutual connection, Susie Moore, she did the forward on the book.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm very excited about it. I'm very proud of it. It was an Amazon #1 new release for 4 months.
Oh my God.
And it became an Amazon bestseller for several months. And it was just out of millions of books, it was like top 16.
That's
So
amazing, Travis.
yeah.
Amazing. He's about to hold it up, I think, on if you're watching on YouTube and if you're listening.
Oh, there we go. Here's one.
Okay.
I have some.
Okay. So there it is. Interview activator. Land more interviews, get more
Get more,
offers,
make
make
more
more
money.
money. I love that. Tell us, how can people learn more about you? How can people work with you? Tell us all the things.
For sure. So if you are looking up anything that I could possibly help you with, you can reach me on any social media or on our website, which is HireAE.com, or you can find me on any social media, Travis C. Patterson. That's Patterson with 2 T's. Travis C. Patterson on everything. And if I can help you, I'd be more than happy to help you take the next step. It may not be from A to Z, but if I can help you get from A to B, I'm here for you.
Hmm. Thank you, Travis. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.